Внимание! На Чернобыльской атомной электростанции в городе Припяти неблагоприятная радиационная обстановка и временную эвакуацию жителей города в пункты Киевской области.
We will take a deep dive into one of the worst nuclear disasters in history, the Chernobyl disaster. In 1986, the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in the Ukrainian region of the Soviet Union was the site of a catastrophic event that not only impacted the Soviet Union, but also the entire world. The Chernobyl disaster caused immense environmental and human health damage. What led to Chernobyl? Why was it so devastating? How did the world change after the disaster? We will answer all these questions together. If you want to know more about the Chernobyl disaster in detail, make sure to watch this video until the end. Before 1986, let's take a look at how the Chernobyl nuclear power plant was built. Chernobyl was an essential part of the Soviet Union's energy production. The plant started construction in the early 1970s with the goal of meeting the Soviet Union's electricity needs. The plant had 4 RBMK reactor Bolshomoshchnosti Kanalny reactors. This type of reactor was commonly used in the Soviet Union but was quite different from reactors used in the West. RBMK reactors had significant safety concerns, especially regarding their cooling systems. The biggest problem with these reactors was that they were unstable at low power levels. This meant that if the reactor did not operate correctly, it could lead to a very dangerous situation. The 4 reactor at Chernobyl was one of these reactors, and its inherent design flaws eventually led to the disaster. On the night of April 25 to 26, 1986, a safety test was planned for the 4 reactor at Chernobyl. The purpose of the test was to determine how the reactor's generators would respond during a power outage. However, several serious mistakes during the test led to the disaster. First, it's important to understand that the reactor's power level was much lower than it should have been before the test, meaning it wasn't properly cooled and was filled with radioactive material. During the test, the power level was unnecessarily increased too quickly, causing the reactor to become uncontrollable. In addition to this, there were serious errors in training, a lack of understanding of the safety procedures, and miscommunications among the staff. These mistakes rapidly escalated into a catastrophic event, with the reactor's core being damaged and eventually leading to an explosion. The explosion destroyed not only the 4 reactor, but also surrounding structures and equipment. The reactor's core was blown apart, and radioactive material was released into the atmosphere. In the immediate aftermath of the explosion, the workers at the plant and the first responders were not fully aware of the extent of the radiation threat. Immediately following the explosion, fire brigades were called to the scene. However, the firemen were unaware of the severity of the situation and were exposed to high levels of radiation. Many of them soon fell ill and tragically died. In the hours following the explosion, an evacuation was initiated, with people being relocated from a 30-kilometer radius. However, the evacuation was initially slow and disorganized, and many people were exposed to radiation. The Chernobyl disaster was not just an explosion. It became a long-term environmental catastrophe. After the explosion, radiation quickly spread into the environment. The nearby areas, as well as regions as far as 1,000 kilometers away from Chernobyl, were contaminated with radioactive particles. Within hours, radioactive material had entered the atmosphere, and winds carried it across Europe. In fact, Sweden's capital, Stockholm, detected abnormal radiation levels several days later. This spread had a profound impact on not only the Soviet Union but also many other countries. However, the Soviet government initially downplayed the severity of the disaster and failed to provide sufficient information to the outside world. This led to an international outcry. The areas most affected by the radiation were in Ukraine. Many people living in these regions were exposed to significant radiation and faced long-term health issues. The number of cancer cases, birth defects, and other health problems increased sharply. The effects of Chernobyl were far-reaching and devastating. After the disaster, the Soviet government launched an extensive cleanup effort. A team known as the Chernobyl Liquidators, mostly made up of military personnel, was tasked with trying to reduce radiation levels. However, these cleanup operations were extremely dangerous and difficult. The liquidators worked to decontaminate the affected areas, but they themselves were exposed to deadly levels of radiation. Many of them became seriously ill and died in the months and years following the disaster. The cleanup efforts were a testament to the grave dangers of nuclear accidents. In addition to these efforts, by the early 2000s, a massive containment structure known as the New Safe Confinement was built around reactor to prevent further radiation leaks. This new structure aims to contain the radioactive material for at least a century, if not longer. The effects of Chernobyl are still being felt today. Thousands of people who were forced to evacuate the area have had to cope with the psychological and physical consequences of radiation exposure. The disaster also significantly changed global perceptions of nuclear energy. It sparked widespread anti-nuclear sentiment, leading many countries to reconsider, even abandon their nuclear energy programs. Today, the Chernobyl disaster is a key part of discussions surrounding nuclear energy, environmental protection, and energy security. The lessons learned from this catastrophic event continue to shape policies and practices in energy management and safety. Chernobyl serves as a stark reminder that the use of technology, particularly nuclear energy, must be approached with great care and responsibility. In conclusion, the Chernobyl disaster was not only an explosion, but also a trauma for an entire nation and a turning point for the global energy landscape. It left permanent scars, both on the environment and on the people who lived through it. In this video, we've examined the history and impact of the Chernobyl disaster in depth. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Share this video to raise awareness about this significant event in history. See you in the next video, and take care.